against former world champion Carlos Santos. Also today, the tension continues to build for Monday night's Hagler-Leonard showdown. And you'll hear from both the champion and the challenger as they wind up their training here in Las Vegas. We are live at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, where the sun has poked through the billowy clouds of the desert to provide brightness and sunshine for this afternoon's championship match between Donald Curry and Carlos Santos. It has been a little wet and rainy here overnight and all this morning. Very close to fight time indeed. Now it's starting to dry up. Temperature of 54 degrees, still kind of breezy for the fighters and the spectators, and that has kept the crowd down here in the stadium behind Caesars Palace. The boxers themselves will be protected for this fight with the canopy overhead, and of course that also in place for the big fight on Monday night between Hagler and Leonard. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Ryan, and amidst some April showers we've had, spring fever is still in the air. College basketball has just wrapped up its season, and in our first hour, we'll take a special look at what this time of year means out in the heartland of Hoosier country. And Major League Baseball opens its new season on Monday. By way of a preview, Dick Stockton will report on why everyone's out to get the New York Mets. He'll also show us the pitch that's getting everyone out, the split-finger fastball. Pat Summerall will set the stage for another of the great rites of spring, the Masters, which also begins this week at the Augusta National. But the big story in Las Vegas this week is what they're billing as the super fight, the matchup between Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. The excitement has been building all week long. The marquees are lit, and the fans were waiting as the boxers arrived earlier in the week. Sugar Ray Leonard on Monday and met with all of the usual pomp and circumstance, attended to Caesars Palace. The Roman centurions and hundreds of fans were out to greet the man who is attempting one of the most dramatic comebacks in boxing history. The champion trying to stop that comeback notion, Marvin Hagler, likewise greeted with a huge number of his fans. And one of the biggest press conferences perhaps in sports history. More than 1,100 members of the media are here from all over the world, and they heard the final words from the two fighters here just yesterday. Well, joining me here is our special guest, a big fight fan, John Madden. And John, you've been here all week watching all of this excitement. It must remind you a little bit, since they're calling it the super fight, of the Super Bowl.
It reminds me a lot of the Super Bowl, but I think there's nothing better than a fight scene and the week of the fight scene, and because everyone has an idea on who's going to win, and you don't really have to be an expert. It's easy to be an expert. There's only two guys. You know, it's not like football. You have to say, well, what if they zone or they blitz, or what are they going to do with the three wide receivers against the nickel? Or the basketball, you know, the 4-and-1 and the back doors and all that stuff. There's just two guys in their shorts and tennis shoes. You know, and you just pick one, you like one, and you just go back and forth and watch them. And I think the whole scene is a great scene.
Well, we're going to find out what John Madden thinks is going to happen on Monday night a little later in our program. Thanks, John. We're going to look forward, more importantly, to your conversation with Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But first, Bob Knight made some championship history of his own this past week. And when we come back, we'll look at the climax to what has turned out to be the year of the Hoosier, when Sports Saturday continues here on CBS.
CBS Sports Saturday is sponsored by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. Aftershave Skin Conditioner by Menon. And by Pella Windows and Doors.
Leonard is now the main attraction in Las Vegas, but last week, the talk of the town was the local basketball team, the Runnin' Rebels of UNLV, who were honored with a parade and cheered by an estimated 18,000 fans who saluted the squad on its return from the Final Four in New Orleans. They loved their Rebs here in Las Vegas and appreciated the fact that even though they didn't win it all, they did so well down there in New Orleans. Of course, the favored Rebels lost to Indiana a week ago in the national semifinals. And then on Monday night, the Hoosiers in Syracuse went down to the wire in a classic.
Smart takes the shot, and the Hoosiers with 3 seconds. Go ahead.
On Tuesday, it was back home again in Indiana, where the Hoosiers received a warm welcome from fans who braved the cold to greet their conquering heroes. From there, it was off to Assembly Hall, the site of so many victories. This time, the Hoosiers enjoyed some of the spoils as an overflow crowd showed its appreciation.
This team will show you that when you've got some problems of your own and when things aren't going really well for you, you can tighten your belt a little bit and get the ball to keep smart, and things will come out all right. It's been a very exciting 4 years for me, and to be able to cap it all off, like Todd says, by hanging another banner, that's a dream come true. We love you!
As a high school player, Steve Alford was Indiana's Mr. Basketball 4 years ago, a major honor in the state whose mystical relationship with the sport has been documented this year in a best-selling book and a major motion picture. Our Gary Paul Gates recently discovered that the Hoosier spirit is alive and well along the back roads of Indiana.
Sunday morning, in a state where the other religion is basketball. This is Couts, a small and obscure farming community tucked away in the cornfields of northern Indiana.
But Couts still has its own high school, and that makes it part of a vanishing breed. A throwback to a more innocent era when small country schools formed the roots of Indiana basketball. And in this year's tournament, the Couts Mustangs won a division championship for the first time ever in their long history. And that victory swept this town into a state of delirium known as Hoosier hysteria.
The basketball team is generally the center of the school, and therefore when you win something like this sectional, it's a whole community accomplishment, and the whole community bask in the glory of it all.
What made this victory so glorious is that the last time the Mustangs made it this far to the sectional finals was 30 long years ago, and then they lost. This year's Cinderella team was given a special incentive. On the eve of the tournament, Coach Gaff turned to Hollywood's version of Indiana basketball for a touch of inspiration.
We did go and see the movie Hoosiers, and I think that was a real positive thing for our kids, and it gave them sort of a feeling that it's happened before, and it was a plus.
On the way down to sectionals that night, we went by this farm, and there was a bent hoop, just like on Hoosiers, and there's two little kids out there playing around with the basketball. I said, it kind of reminds you of the movie, because it did. It looked just like it, and I think that inspired us a little bit.
But life does not imitate art, and only in the movies do we find Hollywood endings. After winning the sectional, Couts moved up to the regional level and was eliminated. But the end of the Hoosiers' dream did not take away from the thrill that these high school kids gave to the farmers and townspeople who live in Couts and gather each morning at their favorite coffee shop to talk about their favorite subject.
Let me ask you this. Is what happened in Couts this year an example of what the rest of the country hears about when they hear Hoosier hysteria?
Oh, yeah. A lot of just little kids even. They all got involved. Super. That's what you want. Spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
When you see Cabbage Patch dolls with Couts cheerleader uniforms on, the whole town's nuts.
Of course, all basketball conversations in Indiana eventually get around to Coach Bobby Knight, the state's most controversial citizen and the subject of a book that has become a big bestseller.
Probably before I read it, I probably would have liked to have my boy play for him, but after I read it, I'm not too sure I would.
Really?
But he's a good coach.
Shows the true Bobby Knight, I guess, from what you understand.
True Bobby Knight,
Yeah. I know he's not happy about it. But
Hey, Bobby Knight's a nice guy.
Well, I got to ask you, as a visitor from out of town, from out of state, what is it about Indiana basketball that makes it so crazy and mad and wonderful?
Everybody's still they love basketball here. We had the fans then, we got them now. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, that's great.
It's the same.
If you look out on a basketball floor around town, they're dribbling basketballs almost from the time they get up and start walking. Everybody's involved.
it makes an impression on you. It's all tradition.
There are those who claim that tradition isn't what it used to be, that the decline of the farms has taken the edge off the down-home roots of Hoosier basketball. But what happened in Couts this month is convincing proof that nothing has really changed in the small country towns of Indiana, where basketball is not a game so much as a way of life, a religious crusade. For CBS Sports, I'm Gary Paul Gates.
Still ahead, all eyes are on Sugar Ray Leonard, who is putting the finishing touches on his training for Monday night's super fight against Marvelous Marvin Hagler. John Madden and Gil Clancy will help preview that showdown. Speaking of fights, the New York Mets had their share en route to a world championship, and Dick Stockton will show us why they've got plenty of punch left when we continue.
The game Monopoly has come to life at McDonald's. Win a McDLT, Coca-Cola, or $1 million. Collect St. Charles Place, States and Virginia Avenues, and win a dream vacation. Collect these for a $250,000 home. Hello, over $40 million in cash and prizes. Collect the right game pieces or win instantly. So play Monopoly. Do not pass go. Go directly to McDonald's.
There are many ways to end the paperwork overload. You can blow it off, dump it on someone else, or blow it away for good. But the best solution is Radio Shack's high-speed, high-capacity Tandy 1000SX. It's PC compatible and comes with a monitor and a 20-megabyte hard disk that stores over 5,000 pages of information. The highly acclaimed Tandy 1000SX, a complete hard disk system for only $15.99 at Radio Shack.
The superstars are back. Bird and the Celtics, Barkley and the Sixers. Then it's Magic and the Lakers, Alex English and the Nuggets. The NBA returns tomorrow on CBS Sports.
Back here in Las Vegas, we await the boxing action with the sun looking a little better as we go along here. And meanwhile, lots of other news to report to you today. In baseball news, word out of Boston that Roger Clemens, the outstanding Red Sox pitching star, has neared agreement with a new contract with the Red Sox and has reported to Florida. Here's what he had to say this morning.
And then today I expressed my feelings that I'm ready to pitch and I want to get started right away so I can get off to another good start.
Well, in other baseball news, former New York Mets outfielder George Foster today claimed that he warned the Mets about a drug problem last season, but he refused to identify the players he says were involved. Still, the biggest story in Major League Baseball this week broke in St. Petersburg, Florida, when it was revealed that a Mets ace Dwight Gooden, the 1985 Cy Young Award winner, tested positive for cocaine use and would be admitted to a New York clinic for drug rehabilitation. Gooden is expected to miss at least 2 months, with his rehabilitation program, and without him in their starting rotation, the Mets are not as strong a favorite to repeat, especially since every team in the National League is looking to gun down the cocky defending champions. But as Dick Stockton reports, this team by nature will not go down without a fight.
It was only a few months ago that the New York Mets won the 7th game of the World Series, beating the Boston Red Sox right here in Shea Stadium. The Mets won 116 games and no doubt were the best team in baseball. Theirs was a style of flair and showmanship that New Yorkers loved, but other fans and players hated.
I can't stand the Mets, and the reason why is because they're an arrogant bunch of slobs.
They were very arrogant at times and almost wanted to rub it in your face.
I hate the Mets because they're obnoxious.
Gary Carter's one of my closest friends, but I don't appreciate when he stands out there in front of the crowd and incites the crowd.
If they would have played in our era, they may have had some sore ribs probably with some of the pitchers in the National League when I played there.
All they do all year is brag about how good they are, and yet the reality of the situation is that they're just bums.
It seems baseball fans had no trouble making up their minds about the Mets last season. They were just one of those teams. You either loved them or you hated them. Whether it was their on-the-field aggressiveness or their off-the-field mischief, the Mets were curtain calls, hugs, and high fives. But for their fans who couldn't get enough, the Mets even obliged with a music video.
We got the teamwork to make the dream work. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All this celebration. Game of the World Series, beating the Boston Red Sox right here in Shea Stadium. The Mets won 116 games, and no doubt were the best team in baseball. Theirs was a style of flair and showmanship that New Yorkers loved, but other fans and players hated.
Can't stand the Mets, and the reason why is because they're an arrogant bunch of slobs.
They were very arrogant at times and almost wanted to rub it in your face.
I hate the Mets because they're obnoxious.
Gary Carter's one of my closest friends, but I don't appreciate when he stands out there in front of the crowd and incites the crowd.
If they would have played in our era, they may have had some sore ribs probably with some of the pitchers in the National League when I played there.
All they do all year is brag about how good they are, and yet the reality of the situation is that they're just bums.
It seems baseball fans had no trouble making up their minds about the Mets last season. They were just one of those teams. You either loved them or you hated them. Whether it was their on-the-field aggressiveness or their off-the-field mischief, the Mets were anything but dull. To New Yorkers, they were colorful, but to many outside the Big Apple, they were hot dogs. Rivals wondered, did they have to be so arrogant? All they saw was a seemingly endless series of curtain calls, hugs, and high fives. But for their fans who couldn't get enough, the Mets even obliged with a music video.
We got the teamwork to make the dream work. Let's go.
All this celebration led to the rest of the league trying to knock the Mets off their pedestal. And when push came to shove, the Mets simply wouldn't back down.
And there goes Davis. His pitch is swung on and missed a throw down, not in time, and Davis for the stolen base. And now look out, and now a little scramble as Ray Knight takes a swing at Eric Davis, and boy, all heck is broken loose down at third base. And Ray Knight certainly started that one.
As their reputation as the fighting Mets grew, so did the number of confrontations on the field and off. 4 Mets found trouble with local police in a Houston bar, and it seems that you can't pick up a newspaper without reading about one Met or another involved in controversy. None of this fazed the Mets' feisty manager, Davey Johnson, whose team scrapped its way through the postseason.
You know, a lot of people don't like the Mets because of what they perceive to be an arrogant attitude, but brother, they can play some baseball.
They're in the 7th game, 8-5 Mets, 9th inning, 2 out, nobody on. The pitch, swing and a miss, and the Mets have won it. The Mets are the champions of baseball.
Met players say they wouldn't be labeled as arrogant if they hadn't been so successful.
People were singling us out as a team because we were winning and blowing the league away. But, you know, if you look at it, there's other players in the league that high-five and get in their Cadillac when they hit a home run and hot dog it and take curtain calls. I mean, it's all around the league now. The game has changed in that respect.
As far as the arrogance and cockiness, I don't think it's there. It's just that we've got a great ball club, and we just go out there and display a great deal of confidence.
As some opponents see it, the Mets have earned their right to act as they please.
I'm sure that there are a lot of people around the league that don't really care about the way that they do it, but the bottom line is that they won, and that's what you have to look at.
You can't get that way. You can't be that way without winning, though. Being a successful organization, winning over the last 3 years like they did, they worked hard for it. They deserve it. Act the way they want to until somebody can prove them different. They are the champ, and somebody can take it away. They'll be the same way, I guarantee you.
Maybe the Mets are misunderstood, but champions often come across as being arrogant.
Namath was pretty good at that sort of thing. You know, you talk to Michael Jordan today, and there are those who may not know him. They might feel he's somewhat arrogant. There are some really special people out there with some special talents, and it's very difficult for them not to be. When you get 25 guys feeling that way in the same place at the same time, you've got something real special. Arrogance, it's often referred to, but I don't think that's necessarily bad.
Now, in addition to the Gooden incident, the Mets have also lost star reliever Roger McDowell for at least 2 months while he recovers from a hernia operation. It's enough to make the Mets wish they hadn't let go of a promising but erratic young right-hander they had a few seasons ago. His name, Mike Scott. Since leaving the Mets, Scott learned a new pitch, went on to win last year's Cy Young Award. When we come back, Dick Stockton will take a look at that new pitch, the split-finger fastball, and how it's changing the game.
Gimmick pitches are nothing new to baseball. Carl Hubble won more than 250 games with his screwball. There have also been variations of the old spitball. Some have mastered the knuckleball. Almost everything has been tried.
Steve Hamilton pitching it. Oh, there's the volley floater, and it falls back. And Munson makes the catch. Holy cow, what a play by Thurman Munson.
But it's a pitch perfected by reliever Bruce Sutter that's frustrated batters for nearly a decade. And Sutter doesn't mind sharing the secret of his split-fingered success.
Well, I don't spread my fingers as far as I think most people think. I throw my fastball like that, and I only spread them that far and keep my thumb on the back seam. And really, I just try to throw the ball as hard as I can. And the ball slips out, and it gets that downward rotation. It's hard to explain how it all happened, but it came pretty easy for me.
Although arm troubles have sidelined the right-hander, Sutter recognizes what the pitch has done for his career.
It made my whole career. Without the split finger, I would have never made it to the big leagues. I mean, I was just a mediocre pitcher. And with the split finger, it changed my whole career around.
Giants manager Roger Craig is the man most associated with the pitch. In 1984, he taught it to Jack Morris, who led the Tigers to a world title. Craig says it's a pitch anyone can learn.
It's been an effective pitch, and I've always been a pitching coach where I can teach you a slider, or you a curveball, or you a screwball, or whatever. But I think this pitch, I can teach it to almost anybody.
Craig turned Mike Krukow of the Giants into a 20-game winner last year, and the Astros' Mike Scott won a Cy Young relying heavily on that pitch. Now Craig's former pupil is an opponent.
I guess if he could look back, he probably wouldn't do it again if he knew that he'd have the Giant job the next year and we'd be playing against him. But I was just fortunate that he wasn't working for anybody at the time, and he took the time to teach me the pitch.
Scott's not concerned about the split finger causing the kind of arm trouble that has plagued Sutter recently.
It's a lot easier on my arm throwing that pitch than throwing sliders and curveballs, which I don't throw anymore. That's the same motion as my fastball, and that has the least stress on my arm when I throw a fastball. So last year I threw a lot more innings than I ever had in the past, and my arm felt better at the end of the year than it ever has.
The only people who don't feel good about the split finger are the men who have to make a living trying to solve the mystery with their bats.
As soon as somebody figures it out, I'll let you know.
It's an optical illusion.
Let's outlaw it. Let's outlaw it.
Well, here in Caesar's Palace, these are the odds on different teams winning the World Series. The Mets and the Yankees are the odds makers' favorites. They think a Subway Series is a real possibility. That may not include this week's news, of course. There's also plenty of action for bettors concerning Monday Night Super Fight, where Marvelous Marvin Hagler remains a solid 3-1 favorite. But when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Gil Clancy, John Madden, and some special guests as we look ahead to that Hagler-Leonard showdown. Right now, though, we're just about a half hour away from our live championship bout between Carlos Santos and Donald Curry. Whom you see warming up here in his dressing room. We'll continue live from Las Vegas after this message and a word from your local station. Rounds of action in the USBA junior middleweight category. The champion Donald Curry defending against Carlos Santos, a former world champion. That fight upcoming here live on CBS Sports Saturday. Well, I've been joined by our colleague who will be involved in the commentary this afternoon and on the big fight on Monday night, Hagler and Leonard, Gil Clancy. And Gil, you had a trip down to Sugar Ray's camp, saw him at Hilton Head in South Carolina, and I'm wondering, now that you've seen him this week here in Las Vegas, any difference? What are your thoughts?
Well, Tim, I wasn't very impressed with Ray down in Hilton Head, but watching him here, he looked much stronger, much sharper, seems to be peaking right at the right time.
Well, everybody is interested to find out if that's the case. When you look back on Ray Leonard's career, you can understand perhaps why Marvelous Marvin Hagler often seems so envious. As Gil found out when he visited Ray at a South Carolina training camp, everything seemed to come so naturally along Leonard's climb to the top.
He seemed like just another flashy amateur almost a decade ago. He's only 30 now, but entering the twilight. The smile and charm was Olympian. Today it's a fight against the hands of time. His most famous battle ended with no crunching punch, just the joy of having beaten the devil. It made him the most likable face in America. And his charisma still holds the crowd. But we wonder if he can show this type of punching power. Can he come back from the setbacks that some say have left him confused?
This is the only man can make that possible. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But unfortunately, it'll never happen. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Well, this is a happening. This is something that is going to change the history of boxing. Something's never been done before.
This has pressure on me. I don't necessarily feel that way because the expectation of everyone is the fact that Marvin Hagler is expected to win. He's expected to knock me out. He's a full-fledged middleweight. I'm a welterweight that's now become what they say a junior middleweight or a blown-up, out of proportion middleweight.
I trained Emil Griffith when he won the middleweight championship, and I agree with Ray's camp.
But right now, he's a solid middleweight. He's a solid middleweight. Like I said, I do know one thing, the fact that you want him in good condition.
Weight is not the big problem. He'll be a natural middleweight.
This is only the second fight Ray has had in 4.5 years. How much has he lost? It's always tough to tell until you get in the ring. It wasn't easy at first for Ray.
The first 2 weeks that we were down here, and we came down here third week in January, he probably wasn't the most pleasant guy to be around.
Don't have to push him to train. Loves to train. He's a happy fighter. Gets in the gym, he'll be smiling today. That's the best kind of fighter. My fella's the puncher in this fight. Sugar Ray Leonard will definitely be the banger in this fight. Going to stop Marvin Hagler, 8th, 9th, or 10th round.
The Leonard camp has read everything about Marvelous Marvin. It makes for a natural story, the smile versus the scowl.
They say he's losing. The fact that he's being hit more and he's been beat up. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think he's been beat up at all. I think Marvin has always been victorious. I think he just happened to fight tough fights.
Marvin Hagler's got the problem. He won't find my fella to be easy like the other guys were. He won't find Ray.
The brain trust includes Jacobs, Dundee, and Morton. They have tried everything psychological as well as physical to get Ray ready, including the strategy of how many rounds this fight should be.
Gil, the number of rounds was probably the most difficult part of the negotiations, believe it or not. 12 rounds was very important to us because it was very important to Mr. Hagler. Mr. Hagler had mentioned on more than one occasion that in the Duran fight it was even after 12 rounds. He needed the last 3 to pull it out. We wanted the 12 rounds because obviously from a strategic and a mental standpoint there's a little bit of edge there.
Angelo and I have worked together and against each other in the past, so I know a psych job when I hear it.
What I'm concerned about is the way Marvin Hagler keeps his trunks up to here. Every time you see Marvin Hagler fight, you can't see his belly button. Ray's a better looking guy, so I'm going to put a bow tie on him, be up to his neck.
There will be no tuxedos on April 6th. It's Ray Leonard's grasp for glory that only he can measure.
Gil, that last close-up, the shot of Ray's eyes, still the subject of much discussion by the media, many of the fans here in Las Vegas, although the commission, Ray himself, his doctors all insist there is no further possible danger as a result of the surgery he's had. Of course, there could be a new injury, which could occur to anybody at any time. But you've been in many corners and many tight situations, seen many boxing injuries. What are your thoughts on this particular situation?
Well, Tim, years ago when a fighter got a detached retina, he was finished. But now with the advent of laser beam surgery, things have changed. Doctors will tell you that once they reattach your retina with the laser beam, it's better than new. Now, Ray has been examined by 4 different ophthalmologists, including one from Lloyd's of London. They've all given him a clean bill of health. I don't think the eye's a factor.
Ray would like it to not be a factor, and he'd like everybody to just forget about it, but of course it'll still be on people's minds when the fight begins. Well, coming up momentarily, our John Madden has a visit with Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I think you're going to find tremendously entertaining and informative. He's a big fight fan, and we'll learn more about Marvin from John in a moment. Madden is a great football expert, and I don't know how many of you know that he's a very knowledgeable boxing fan. John, I know that Marvelous Marvin Hagler has been a particular favorite of yours over the years.
You know, I think of all the guys in sports, I think I respect Marvelous Marvin Hagler as much as anyone. And, you know, you pick all Madden teams and the type of guy that you would like to have and coach, and that's the type of guy Hagler, I mean, that dedicated guy, the sacrifice, the blue collar, the lunch pail guy, the guy that had to work hard and pull himself up, and I've always respected that. I mean, he's a self-made man who kind of epitomizes all that hard work type guy.
I can see him on an all-Madden team. And in contrast to Sugar Ray Leonard's success, the saga of Marvin Hagler started when his career outlook was anything but marvelous. And as John reports, even when it seemed that at long last he'd get that chance to settle the score with Leonard, he was made to feel like the odd man out.
As far as Leonard and Hearns is concerned, I'm not thinking about them at the moment right now. What I am really feeling and thinking right now is that I am seriously thinking about, again, retiring from the boxing game.
I said, he's been retiring off and on for the last 3 or 4 years. Then that challenge comes up.
I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. And maybe with this fight, it could be a possibility that I can be satisfied.
And then that could be it.
Then that can be it, but I'm not taking it that way because I don't want to slack up at none of the sense. I want to keep going until I'm done.
That never-ending hunger has been there throughout Hagler's career. And it surfaced again as he prepared for the Leonard fight with the motto he adopted, no mercy.
No mercy is, I took that on in the beginning, and I don't know, for some reason, that's what I felt that this fight's all about, Marvin, no mercy. Just go out there and just take this guy apart.
Are you concerned about his eye?
Leonard had a legit excuse to get away from the game of boxing and still come out smelling. Why go out of the game on your back or whatever like that? And this is the way that I'm planning on him going. I'm planning on stretching him. I'm planning on hurting him. If I don't knock him out, he's going to take a lot of damage.
The past few years have been good for Hagler. There's been commercial endorsements as well as an increase in his recognition and popularity. Still, the specter of Leonard hovered over him. For Leonard seemed to obtain with ease and grace all that Hagler had to struggle and sacrifice for. And so, simply put, Hagler just doesn't like the guy.
I think he's an imitation, really. He's an imitation of Muhammad Ali. He don't even really know who he is. He's even copycatted the name Sugar. The real Sugar Ray is, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson. You know, who is Ray Leonard? I'm planning on drilling a hole into that body so I find Ray Leonard.
Well, who do you think he is?
I don't think he knows who he is. He's been caught up in a trap like that because of everybody called him Sugar Ray and all that stuff and whatever. I think he's caught up in his own self. You know, again, that comes with probably an ego type of thing. I think he's on the ego trip, no doubt about it.
As you get ready for this fight, are you concerned about your place in history?
It's not that I'm really looking for that. I'm looking for my glory. I think what happens is that I thought I was going to get it with Thomas Hearns. I thought I was going to finally get it with Roberto Duran and beating a guy like Mugabe. I thought I'd prove myself to the world that I can take on the boxers, take on the punches, take on any type of style that is out there. But yet there's still doubt in the public's eye. Not in the public, but in the boxing world. I have to maintain a certain image about myself. I can't go blowing off telling everybody I am the best, I am the greatest, and all this stuff. That's not my style. But I have to prove it once again. And I think that that with Leonard, getting him out the way, I think that would finally do it for me. I can finally, hopefully, I'll find the satisfaction that I've been looking for and the glory.
To ensure that glory, Hagler's worked longer and harder than ever for this fight. When you train in the mirror and you're watching yourself then, what do you think then?
A lot of times when I stop and I stare in that mirror once in a while, I would hate to be fighting that guy on the other side of that mirror.
Do you have any predictions, any feeling that you have of how it'll go?
Yeah, I see me knocking him out. I see me a tough battle. I'm anticipating a very hard fight. There's no way I'm underestimating Leonard at all.
How about the judges here in Las Vegas?
Well, you know, that I can't help too much, so that's why I bring my own judges with me. And my referee. This is K, this is O. What the people really want to see, John, and I actually believe this, they only love knockouts and blood. And that's what makes a fight like this. And with that type of money that's going into this fight, there won't be no love. You better forget that. There's no love in this fight.
Can Hagler lose? Maybe. But if Leonard's corner is banking on Hagler being as conservative as he appeared in the Duran fight, they might be in for a big surprise.
Watching the Duran fight that Leonard was commentating on that fight, and there was things in that Duran fight that he saw that they'll be materializing on. But there's also things in that fight that I saw and Pat saw also that we've corrected. And if they're basing it solely on that, they'll get a rude awakening coming.
People feel as though they can whoop me or whatever. It motivates me. No matter what he does, no matter what he says, Leonard is standing in my way to what I want to achieve. And then there's only one way to do it, and that's to eliminate him.
Marvelous, Marvin. Now, John, you said you could probably find a spot for him on your all-Madden team. Maybe he would have made one of those great Oakland Raiders teams of yours.
Well, you know, that's kind of how I picked the all-Madden team. You think of the guys that you would have liked to have coached. And last week, we just had a reunion of the Super Bowl 11 team. It was the 10th year, and I was thinking that Hagler would have fit in there perfectly. And I would have put him in the secondary. You know, you can play 11, 12, whatever you want. But I would have had 3 safeties instead of 2. I would have had Tatum, Atkinson, and Hagler.
Oh, ouch.
And then say, come on, let's go.
Yeah, I can picture that group. That'd be fantastic. Well, thank you, John. Wait a minute now. How about a pick? And everybody wants to know who you like.
Hagler.
Hagler, done. Firm, as always. All right, John. When we come back, Thomas Hearns will join us along with some other special guests as we continue on CBS Sports Saturday, live from the boxing action in Las Vegas, after this message and a word from your local station. We're live from Las Vegas on CBS Sports Saturday, and the undercard underway for our championship action upcoming. It'll be Donald Curry against Carlos Santos, and there is the former IBF world champion. He is the challenger for the USBA title today, 34-3, and very ready, I can promise you that. He'll take on Donald Curry. Well, now we have a very distinguished group of people to have what I like to call maybe a little hot stove league here, a discussion of the big fight on Monday night. We've been joined by Arthur Mercanti, a veteran referee on my immediate right, who has been involved in many championship bouts and is considered one of the very great experts about the art of refereeing, and an art it is indeed. Representing the media, next to Arthur, one of 1,100 media covering the bout, and a man who can tell us about the impact of this fight in Europe and around the rest of the world, is Hugh McIlvaney, very respected boxing writer from the London Observer. And next to him, the light heavyweight champion, WBC version, wants that middleweight crown to make it 4 in his incredible career, Thomas Hearns. And our own Gil Clancy down on the far end of this group. Well, gentlemen, let's start with you, Arthur, because I think the fact that Richard Steele has been named the referee for this bout naturally raises some discussion. Everybody wants to know who's the referee going to be and what effect might he have on the fight. What's your impression about Richard Steele?
Well, I kind of think that he is an excellent referee, and I kind of think he won't be intimidated by a cut. He won't be intimidated by an injury. I think he will let it go on. I think he'll be a very, very fair official in the ring tonight.
Tommy Hearns, maybe
tonight. I'm sorry. I mean
Monday night. That's all right. Tommy Hearns, I think fighters certainly have a lot of impressions about officials. You're familiar with Richard Steele. How do you feel about his choice?
Well, I think that Richard Steele is a very knowledgeable referee. He seems to does his work really well. I'm very impressed on how well he does his work. I think that along with Arthur McKinney and Richard Steele, I think they are 2 of the greatest referees in the world.
Gil, does it matter who the referee selection was for this fight?
Well, I think the problem with the referee in this fight, and I'd like Arthur to answer that question, the fact that Ray Leonard had this eye injury and it's been publicized so much, do you think that the referee will be taking an extra careful look at Ray Leonard's eye?
Well, I think that he would be concerned about it, but I think that Sugar Ray is going to be more concerned about it because there's a fear factor there. Basically, inwardly, he must have a fear that he will be hit there, and that will definitely affect his performance in the fight. It's like a basketball player going into the game who has an injured knee. He's going to be overly protective of that knee, and that will affect his performance.
Hugh McIlvaney, you represent here on this program at least 1,100 of the media have been assembled here, and we were chatting the other day about the tremendous impact this fight has had on the sporting community in Europe. When's the last time you saw as many of your colleagues coming across for a big fight?
I don't think I've ever seen quite as many reporters assembled for a fight. We've seen more reporters and broadcasters at the Olympics and some big events, but this must be just about a record for a fight. I must say, I think it's something of an unnatural phenomenon because I don't really believe in the fight too much, I must tell you.
In what respect?
Well, I think that although boxing's an unstructured sport, and we know that money is the real matchmaker. I think it's basically ludicrous that Sugar Ray should be able to come back after one fight, 9 very unimpressive rounds in more than 5 years, step into a world championship fight. It's as if Jon Borg decided to come back to tennis and got a buy-in to the Wimbledon final and got 11 million for turning up. You know, we all love Sugar Ray, he was a great man, but I think what is being said about him now relates mainly to what he was. I think he is more memory than substance.
Well, Tommy Hearns, you must have some feelings about what Hugh just said.
I agree with Hugh. I think that's very important. I think that Ray should not have been granted the chance to come back and just he should have been granted the chance to come back, but not the chance to step right back in with the championship for a championship fight. I think that he should have had to go through some elimination, at least 1 or 2 fights, to prove to the world that he still has it, that he still wants to do it.
Yep.
Well, Tommy, you say you don't think that Ray Leonard should be in this situation, in this fight, yet you're picking him to win the fight.
Well, only because I know that's what his ability is about, Gil. I've been in there with both men. I know that Ray Leonard has the ability to get in there and box and does it well. He does a very good job of boxing. And then I know what Marvin Hagler's style is like. Marvin Hagler is the stalker. He's going to stalk you until he can get in good enough to get some good shots off.
You know, I think that Ray Leonard won the first battle, the first psychological battle, by getting Hagler to accept a 12-round fight. He only has to concentrate for 36 minutes instead of 45. That could be an important factor.
Do you think that the Ray Leonard you saw in the gym the other day, Gil, is remotely like the Ray Leonard we all admired so much when he fought Mr. Hearns, for example?
The public is going to see a completely different Sugar Ray Leonard. He's no longer a welterweight. His body, he has matured. He looks very, very strong physically, but he no longer makes the moves. He doesn't have the legs. I think this is going to be a war. He told me in an interview, he says, I'm going to keep Marvin Hagler within punching range.
I think he can win a war.
Well, he said, I'm going to keep Marvin Hagler within punching range. I said, if he's in punching range, you're going to be in punching range. So it's going to be a punch-up.
Gil, that's what we're all waiting to see, whether it is the case on Monday night. But one of the major issues, in fact, 2 of the major issues in this super fight build-up concern the contrasting styles of Leonard and Hagler and to the strains of the national anthem. We'll find out about that, as well as their personalities. Yesterday, in their final pre-fight interviews, I asked each fighter about his feelings toward his opponent.
I think the personal side will come from him. You know, I think because basically he's on an ego trip, he's probably a little jealous of the way I've been looking. You know, he should be on the other side sitting where you're sitting at still. But after I finish with him, I don't think he's going to have a job anymore.
I'm not beating the individual. I'm beating his persona. I'm beating Hagler, the invincible. I'm beating Hagler, the guy's impervious to pain. I'm beating a great and true middleweight champion.
And let's see who hits harder. It's not the point of who hits harder. It's what you got behind the punch. And I feel as though in the long run, fine. Let him come out and try to blow me out of there, because I believe that's what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to, most likely, show me his strength. I'm bigger, I'm badder, I hit harder. And I'm going to say, fine. I love it. Ooh, I love it.
The key is being one step ahead of him, hitting him twice to his one time. He said something that gave me an indication that he's willing to come in and take punches. He said, well, I'll be willing to go inside to take a few punches to get my bomb in. If that's what he's thinking, fine. But decision, I'll take it however it comes, Tim.
All right, Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Monday night, gentlemen. Who do you like, Gil?
Hagler.
Tommy?
No complaining. I think it's a toss-up. I think it's, either guy can win.
It's not going to be a draw. You?
No, I give it a toss-up.
Okay, you?
Very definitely Hagler.
All right.
I agree with you, Hagler.
Hagler. All right. Well, I like Hagler, too, and we'll find out who's right. All the fans will have their own picks, of course, for Monday night. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on our little roundtable discussion here. Don't forget, coming up momentarily, exciting championship action. Donald, after an impressive sprint from the top of the stadium down to ringside, we're ready for the Donald Curry-Carlos Santos fight. And, Gil, what are your thoughts this week? We had to be impressed with Santos in the gym. We know, on the other hand, that Donald Curry, a tremendously talented fighter, trying to prove that he's on his way into the top of the middleweight picture.
Well, Tim, Carlos Santos is a former champion. We saw a real solid pro in the gymnasium. He's in excellent condition. He's a southpaw. I think his style can bother Donald Curry.
Well, Santos, as we said, has looked very good all week in the gym, and he and his camp are very confident. At the training session the other day, we spoke to his trainer, Felix Pintor, to find out what Santos is thinking.
My father thinks about Donald Curry, that Donald Curry was a welterweight fighter, a good fighter, and he has to prove himself as a junior middleweight fighter. And he has to prove a lot to Carlos Santos in that division, which is Carlos is going to be the world champion with one or another.
Does he think he can knock Donald Curry out?
The way I see the fight, Carlos will knock Donald Curry out in some round in the fight. But why don't we ask Carlos?
Let's do that.
Carlos, ven acá. ¿Quién va a ganar esa pelea?
Donald Curry by knockout 5 rounds.
Well, Donald Curry obviously feels he's capable against this 154-pounder, and we'll find out what he had to say about his strategy and tactics for the fight.
I look to press the fight, hope that we can get in trading wars where I can land, look for the big home run. I'm going to look to press the fight from the opening bell.
Gil, Donald Curry seems to feel that even though he had some difficulty making the weight for this fight, that he is comfortable at this weight. Is that your feeling as well?
Jim, you're never comfortable when you have to struggle to make weight. That could be another factor in the fight.
Is he going to be a middleweight, and how good can he be?
He definitely is a middleweight. If he has trouble making the junior middleweight limit, he's a full-fledged middleweight.
Well, let's see how he does against Carlos Santos here this afternoon as he defends his USBA crown. Donald Curry and Carlos Santos when we return after these words from your local station. Brian with Gil Clancy, we're ready for our Curry-Santos fight. Let's go up to Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Caesar's Palace. This is the main event of the afternoon. The judges for this bout are Bill Graham, Patricia Jarman, and Jerry Moss. The referee is Carlos Padilla. And now let's get ready to rumble. This bout is for the USBA Junior Middleweight Championship, scheduled for 12 rounds. Introducing first, in the red corner, wearing the red trunks, fighting out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, weighing in at an even 153 pounds with a professional record of 34 wins, 3 losses, and 24 KOs. He's the former junior middleweight champion of the world and currently ranked #1 by the USBA. Introducing the challenger, Carlos Santos. And in the blue corner, wearing the black trunks with white trim, fighting out of Fort Worth, Texas. He weighed in also at an even 153 pounds. His professional record, 26 victories, only 1 defeat. He has 20 KOs, and he's the former welterweight champion of the world. He's the current USBA junior middleweight champion. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lone Star Cobra, Donald Curry.
Padilla will be the referee for this bout, and the judges all from Las Vegas, Bill Graham, Pat Jarman, and Jerry Moss, and scoring on the 10-point must system in effect. Donald Curry had some difficulty, as Gil said, getting down to this 154-pound limit, although as he has continued to say, he just feels real good at this weight. He does acknowledge that he really only wants maybe one more fight at this weight, a chance at a world title, and then he would like to be a full-fledged middleweight because he walked around well over 160. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape as Curry came in at 153, as did Carlos Santos. And Santos, at 31 years of age, just slightly taller than Donald Curry. Carlos Santos in the red trunks and Donald Curry in white. Curry 26-1 with 20 knockouts. And Carlos Santos 34-3 with 24 KOs, but showing more power in recent fights than early in his career. And Gil, I think from you what we need to hear is the fact that he's a southpaw. Is Curry solid against southpaws or suspect?
Well, Tim, we only saw him box one southpaw, and he knocked him out in the second round, nailed him with a good punch, but he was having trouble. As funny as it sounds, even though the fight only went 2 rounds.
I recall that fight against Rodriguez in Fort Worth in the first round. Curry did have considerable difficulty, but one punch turned it around in round 2.
Santos is making a mistake by reaching in, Tim. He should start using his legs and his foot speed.
Crowd still filtering in to see this championship bout on this very big weekend of boxing at Caesars Palace. The inclement weather overnight and this morning, it's been a late arriving crowd, but they want to see Curry.
Tim Santos is surprising me. He's punching with Curry.
Now, this is what he was doing in the gym with his sparring partners. Very aggressive, flat-footed style, banging away.
But his sparring partner wasn't Donald Curry.
No, that's
Curry
solid right. Solid right from Curry to the chest. The challenger Santos. Now Curry backing up Santos, has him in trouble. I think it was that right hand that had rocked him earlier. Now Santos seems to have his legs back, and a good right hand by Curry, finding the opening down the middle.
He's not moving. He's standing right in front of Curry.
Just managed to tag Curry with a right, but he paid for it with a combination in return.
Then he's not going to outpunch Donald Curry. He's going to have to outmaneuver him.
Curry sharpshooting now, another good combination score. Santos picked up that counter right at the last split second.
It's him by reaching and leaving himself wide open. He should try to make his moves off Curry's moves.
Solid left jab from Curry. Final seconds of round one. Carlos Santos, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Donald Curry from Fort Worth, Texas. Round two scheduled for 12. USBA Junior Middleweight Championship at stake. The champion Donald Curry from Fort Worth in white. The challenger, former world champion, IBF version, Carlos Santos in red.
Tim, in Santos' corner, they told him to throw punches, be aggressive. They didn't mention boxing. That's what he's doing.
Work to the body there of Donald Curry in that opening flurry, and has been effective during the week of training. But now Curry comes alive for the flurry.
Can't understand this strategy from Carlos Santos. Trying to outpunch a puncher.
Warning from Carlos Padilla to both boxers to watch their heads. I mentioned the judges all being from Las Vegas. I'd like to correct Jerry Maltz is from the state of Arizona, one of the three judges on Brandon Jarman. And that is Patricia Jarman, we should point out, female judge here in Las Vegas. And the heads did clash just as we made that comment. Donald Curry reached up to see if there was any blood. His right eye, but apparently nothing opened up. And again, Santos in close
Again with the head.
And he gets a severe warning this time from Padilla, and it may cost him soon if it happens again.
Then the last fight that Donald Curry had, they disqualified his opponent for butting. Now it's happening again. Very strange.
Montgomery, yeah, in round 5 of that fight. Under a minute to go, we're in round 2. Solid left to the head of the challenger, but Santos digs back to the body.
Then that left to the head was set up by a pretty good body shot. Curry's digging to the body.
Combination scored by Curry, left and a right.
Good left hand by Santos, Tim. There went Santos' head again.
Both fighters
wobbles him, Tim. Santos just wobbles. With a left hook.
Number 3 of the scheduled 12-round United States Championship Junior Middleweight Division, 154 pounds. Donald Curry in white. The champion, Santos in red.
Santos switched momentarily, Tim. Switched to the orthodox style. He's back fighting southpaw again.
Quite an exchange in the final seconds of the second round. Both fighters landing, and we thought Curry getting the best of it with one of his shots.
Santos gave a good account of himself, though, Tim, in that exchange. Another good right hook by Santos.
He's definitely willing to bang with Curry.
This is the war right now, Tim.
Santos said that he thought Curry would not be as strong. He's coming up to the weight. He didn't accept the fact that, as Donald said, he's now naturally comfortable at this weight. In fact, even at 160 pounds. Santos just didn't seem to buy that. He's been a junior middleweight.
Santos has very, very good legs, Tim. Moves very, very quickly when he uses them.
Oh, solid right by Curry. Right down the pipe.
Bring him up, Don. Take to the body. Take to the body. Take to the body. Take to the body now. He's hurt. He's hurt, Don. He's hurt. He's hurt, Don. Don, he's hurt. He's hurt, Don. Get him together, Don. Take to the body. Take to the body. Take to the body. Slide up and look. Still hurt.
Santos is countering pretty good with a straight left hand off Curry's punches.
Seems to be timing a little better, doesn't he, Gil, as this fight's gone into the third round?
Well, he's got his rhythm, Tim. I'm just surprised he's staying right in front of Curry the way he is.
He just took a right hand.
He's banging back himself.
He bangs right back every time. Under a minute to go, round 3. Both fighters missing badly there.
Well, there was Santos reaching again. A little too anxious. Thing to do is make Curry miss and then counter. And he is a good counterpuncher, Santos. Oh, boy, those heads are banging together pretty good right now.
Sneak right hand lead by Curry landed.
Santos has been stopped once, Tim, but that was back in 1978, 9 years ago. He's got a pretty good chin, very good chin.
Well, that was fairly early in his career.
In the minors, you must have called it all 1,000 times. Then one day, you got the call.
What's this, rookie umpire?
Beechwood age for that clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
Compliment to that gentleman.
Round number 4, Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy, and Carlos Santos out the fuel quickly. He's eager.
Carlos Santos was complaining to his cornerman about something. I don't know what's bothering him, but he was shaking his head and complaining.
That's underway in the 4th round of the USBA Junior Middleweight Championship. Donald Curry in white, Carlos Santos in red. Curry forcing the issue. He's got Santos put in the corner, but he's fighting his way out of there.
Burying those body shots, Jim.
That'll take their toll, but every time it looks like he's starting to really get Santos in position, Santos wails right back.
Santos should be using those legs and moving to his right, staying outside of Curry's legs. And just this instead of walking right into Curry's punches. That's his way. He should move to his right.
We're in round number 4. Donald Curry and Carlos Santos, and apparently a little momentary loss of audio. We apologize for that.
Both fighters landing solid punches.
Right in the middle of the ring, letting it fly. Temperature has really increased here as we had early morning cool weather and rainy, wet weather overnight into the morning. It was quite breezy, but now the fighters are sweating freely in there.
You see that head, Tim?
Carlos, it almost looked like he deliberately missed the left hand and brought his head in behind it.
Nice combination by Santos. And there was the head again. There they go again.
And this time you could see Curry just walk away in disgust, and there will be a point taken away by Carlos Padilla from Carlos Santos.
Tim, isn't this strange? Exactly the same thing that happened to Curry in the Montgomery fight.
That fight was stopped. Montgomery disqualified in Curry's first fight as a full-fledged junior middleweight. Under the 30-second mark. Round 4. Now Curry reaching in. Solid right hand by Santos to the ear of Curry.
Santos is surprising me with his aggressiveness. He'd do much better if he tried to be a little bit more cute. There he got nailed again, but he's nailing Curry.
Final seconds of the 4th round.
Tim, those heads are clashing all the time. I'm surprised that nobody's busted up as yet. There they are again.
At the end of round number 4, the fact that Santos seems to be so willing to stick his head in there that way, you would think that Curry would be perhaps trying to pull away from him a little bit more, but he's been staying in there saying, well, I can use my head too.
That's right, Tim. They look like two billy goats. If Curry took a skip back that half step and pulled some good combinations, he'd be nailing Santos all the time.
We'll go back and take a look at the butt that caused Carlos Padilla to take a point away. Action from the 4th round.
Oh, look at that head, Tim. My goodness gracious.
So Carlos Padilla, who had warned him earlier, has taken a point away from Carlos Santos. This fight scheduled for 12 rounds, and clearly you can't afford to give away points for illegalities when you're in against the likes of Donald Curry. But I think your point that Santos is as aggressive as he is, Gil, is very important here because he made it quite clear that he didn't have the respect for Curry as a junior middleweight that he did as a welterweight, and he felt he could outstrength him.
Tim, yes, and now he switched around. He's boxing orthodox style, and you're right. He felt that Curry was only a welterweight. That's what he told us. He said that with disdain. He's only a little welterweight. But Curry is a lot more than a little welterweight, Tim. Very, very good puncher. Had trouble making the junior middleweight limit. He's a big guy.
We're in round number 5, scheduled for 12. Here Ryan with Joe Clancy.
Why would Santos box orthodox style against a good puncher like Donald Curry? Those kinds of things worry me.
Just took a nice head-snapping jab from Curry, working. Now he switches back to his natural stance for him, the southpaw side. Bright, sunny skies now here in Las Vegas. Temperature is really heated up. And that makes everybody feel better about Monday night. Hagler-Leonard here at Caesars Palace.
Good straight left by Santos, Tim. Caught Curry coming out. Oh, Tim, they're banging heads time after time. It's amazing that nobody's cut. There goes the head again.
Now here comes Padilla, may take another point away. Let's see. Yes, he does. Second point taken away, and Akbar Muhammad, the business manager of Donald Curry, leapt to his feet when that contact was made. He is angry and upset, perhaps seeing the same circumstances of the Montgomery fight. One thing for your fighter to win, but God forbid that he gets cut in the process when it's totally unnecessary.
Curry nailed him with a couple of good punches, Tim, and he used that old Latin trick. He smiled at Curry, but believe me, when they smile, they're hurt.
Now Curry, no doubt, letting his anger come out in his gloves here. A minute to go, round number 5.
Tim, do you think there's anything with Curry's style that makes these guys butt him? I mean, it's very, very strange that 2 fights in a row, they're having a big problem with butts.
Except that Donald does seem willing to lean in and keep his head in the contact range. He doesn't move it very much.
Oh, God,
that was
hiding.
Santos, they're going to DQ him, I think. That's it, they have. Well, can you imagine this? In the 5th round, one was clearly an obvious attempt on the part of Santos to score with his head. Well, he did, and it cost him the fight.
Tim, the only thing I can figure, Curry must be hurting these guys a lot more than it looks like, and they're looking for any way to get out of there. It looked like he wanted to get out of there, and that was his easiest way out.
Well, but he wasn't doing that badly in the fight, Gil. I mean, it wasn't that he was taking tremendous punishment. I mean, sure, he had some good shots to the body and head, but he was not a fighter in trouble. I don't know that I would accept that explanation. I can't come up with an answer, but it was clearly an obvious attempt to butt. We'll show on videotape now as the discussion goes on in the ring. Let's look at the finish again. I mean, it's just an absolute lunge. You could see that, as you might say, Curry was open for the headbutt, and Santos went after it. I mean, that is really a disgusting display. And fortunately for Curry, I don't believe any skin opened up there. He did not suffer a cut that we can see, but we'll check on it.
Tim, the only thing you can say for this fight is it set boxing history. I'm sure that no other fighter ever won 2 fights in a row by the opponent being disqualified for a headbutt, and both times in the 5th round.
I think you're on absolutely safe ground, Gil. I won't even bother going to the record book to check that out.
Do you know you'll be in the Guinness Book of Records now, Tim?
Well, all right. We have more boxing action coming for you following a message or two and an interview with our winner, so stay with us because you'll be seeing Michael Nunn, one of the highly ranked, number 7 indeed, middleweights against Charles Campbell, and we'll talk to Donald Curry, find out what we can about the headbutting in a moment. Live in Las Vegas at Caesars Palace with a quick reminder that tomorrow on the NBA, Boston and Philadelphia meet at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And that will be Dr. J's last regular season game. Should be pretty dramatic. And then the Lakers in Denver, 3:30 Eastern Time. That's tomorrow, NBA action here on CBS Sports. Well, let's get to Donald Curry, who has won 2 fights in a row under very strange circumstances. What is it about you, Donald, that these guys seem to want to take your head off with theirs?
I don't know. I was controlling the fight, and it was pretty much my fault making my head available for him to butt. And I guess I got to go back and work on that in the gym, but I wasn't really satisfied with the headbutt. It irritated me.
Well, it's not a satisfying way for you to win, I'm sure. You'd like to go out, do your thing, win the fight cleanly, not have 2 DQs in a row.
I know it. It's frustrated me.
Sure.
That's what it's doing, and I was very disappointed in Santos for using the head.
Well, and I can see that you did indeed get a cut. I wasn't sure, and there is a cut over your right eye, and obviously that delays your progress in the gym and so on, and it's got to be very disappointing.
Oh, yeah, it is very disappointing when you get cut and you've never been cut before, and you want to go back and, look for another fight in July, now have to wait.
Donald, we're going to show you that the final one because he'd been warned several times, and Padilla had already taken a point away. This is the last one, and you did make a point, and I made it also, that one of the things is that your head was there to be butted. Now, a fighter shouldn't have to worry about having another guy go right at him like that, but it's interesting that you also realized that you weren't moving your head enough.
Well, yeah, that was the point. I was controlling the fight, and once I controlled the fight, I started, trying to dig to the body, and I made my head available for him to butt.
All right, now we talked to you last week about, kind of where you are in this picture. You've got the win now. Do you want to stay as a junior middleweight to win a title, or are you thinking about moving up to the middleweight ranks immediately, or will you wait till Monday night?
Wait till Monday night. I would like to fight the winner of the Leonard and Hagler fight, but whatever, I'll fight anybody.
So you would consider then, if you don't get that immediately, that you would try it for a 154-pound world title?
Yes, that's what I'm looking at. I was hoping to fight maybe in July, but now it's head, but I really don't know.
Okay, well, good luck to you, Donald. You were clearly the better man, and we feel badly about the way it ended for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in real action again soon.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Okay, Donald Curry. Now, let's bring in, if we can, Lenny DeJesus and Carlos Santos. If you can just maybe give us an explanation. Carlos, you can see, he started to swell up around the right eye. He does not look happy, Lenny, but it's clear there's no other way to say this. He deliberately tried to butt Donald Curry, if not in the earlier ones, certainly on the last one. Can you ask him why he chose this tactic?
Dicen, ¿por qué tú usaste la táctica esa de entrar así de la manera que estaba entrando? Porque, ¿qué fue la...?
No sé, siempre yo lo hago. Lo que pasa es que él es listo y como sabe que yo entro así, él mete la cabeza y parece que fue un cabezazo. Porque él parece que no le gusta llegar a la distancia.
Well, Carlos says that being the style that Carlos has, he always goes in like that. Donald Curry comes in and his head was there and he came in and hit him a couple times, but it wasn't intentional because Carlos Santos is a better fighter than what you saw today, He said that this is the way he fights. He didn't want to go the distance. Simple as that. They're protecting him.
Well, I mean, that they were protecting Donald Curry, that's what he's saying?
Yes.
Well, but it was quite clear that last one, sure, his head